And welcome to You're Wrong About Musicals. I'm Esme,
And I'm Nell.
and today we are doing Sunday in the Park with George. Um, our first proper episode back, it feels like. We're so back. We're talking about Sondheim, we're going to talk about the 2017 Tony Awards, an actual episode. Thank you for bearing with us during the craziness of our exam seasons. Normal, regularly scheduled programming will commence. We've got a big June planned. Now, care to share on our June and not doing whatever the fuck you're doing?
Pride Month.
Yeah.
So we're doing it's basically the Tonys month, which
Yeah.
in a way is Pride Month.
We came up with this great joke at the start of the year. All will be revealed at the end of next week's episode.
Yeah. We're doing one actual Pride Month episode. And I'm furious about it.
Next week. Not in June.
Are we doing it next week? I thought we were doing it the last week of June.
We need something for next week.
We have an idea for next week.
I thought it's going the show you're pissed about. And then, another show you're pissed about in June. I thought
we'll see. Why don't we just do those two back to back?
Yeah,
so I can be angry for 2 weeks.
What we do next week?
Esme, you know what I'm gonna say.
We're not doing the Joe Iconis Lesbians show. And we do need something for the 30th. However,
I think that we should do the Pride Month show on the 30th.
And what do we do next week?
Listen, I think it would be funny.
News time.
News time.
Cynthia Erivo is going to be doing a one-woman Dracula this winter at the Noel Coward Theatre. You had a point about this.
I'm stealing someone else's point that I saw on Twitter. Which is someone basically saying the Sarah Snook one-woman Dorian Gray, its full title, was making a point about narcissism, which is in line with
the whole point.
It's what the show's about. Yeah. And it made sense. Like, it was, on one hand, yes, it was a gimmick. I don't know if gimmick's the right word. I was saying bit before, but that also doesn't feel quite right.
Gimmick, it's stylistic and directorial choice would be probably a more sophisticated way of saying gimmick.
Yeah.
I love having full use of my brain again.
Oh, it's great.
It's amazing.
But I'm immediately going to go away from that. A thing to, sell the show. The point was, oh my god, it's one woman, Sarah Snook, playing every single character in Dorian Gray.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's really impressive. Watching it was making an actual point about the show. And was saying something. But yes, in part, it was to sell tickets because it was an interesting thing to say.
Yeah.
Dracula, there's no reason for it to be a one-woman show. I suppose there's something to be said about it being a one-woman show rather than a one-man show. I'm sure you can make some kind of point about misogyny, especially considering most of the characters in Dracula are men. I mean,
I'm not bashing Cynthia's ability. I think she's going to be outstanding.
Oh, yeah.
And if tickets aren't bajillion pounds, I will be there. You know? Yeah. I have a lot more time to go to this shit next year.
Yeah. But it does just kind of feel like doing it for the sake of selling tickets.
To quote Gypsy, you gotta get a gimmick. There's something else.
I feel like you could sell it as just Cynthia Erivo is starring as Dracula and Dracula.
That'd be so interesting. And
that would be really fun. And you would just have the rest of the normal cast.
I'm gonna sound so fucking stupid right now. Dracula's a vampire, right?
Yes.
We're having a bit of that movie Sinners.
Yeah. Well. Nosferatu.
No, I'm more bringing up Sinners because it's talking about Black history and how it relates to vampires. So we're having a bit of discussion about that, so that could be really interesting, actually.
I just think that there is a more interesting point to be made of Cynthia Erivo. And I guess I can see then from that line of thinking how the one-woman show plays into it, of the point they're making. But it just feels like they've done what we've just done, of saying, it'd be really interesting to see specifically a Black woman play the role of Dracula and what kind of implications that takes. So, basically, she played the roles.
Why did we pay anyone else?
Why? Okay.
I mean, there was also that Andrew Scott Vanya, where he played all the roles. And I'm not too familiar with what happened there, but like,
Yeah.
heard good things. I don't know.
It just feels like you're not making a point anymore. You're just doing it to prove you can.
I do
It's still very impressive.
I do feel we're getting to a point with celebrities, especially in plays, and this isn't a Cynthia Erivo problem. Like she is a
Mm.
tried and true theatre actress, and
I think
I
regardless
love
of
that.
Wicked or anything else, I think Cynthia Erivo could still be cast in a one-woman Dracula, even if Wicked didn't exist or she wasn't
No,
cast in Wicked,
100%,
and I
100%.
would still fully want to go see it.
I am just wondering that we're going down this road of celebrity casting where it's just like, and this person's going to do this because they can and we can.
It also feels like trying to make the justification for like how much the tickets are going to be.
Hmm.
Like it's going to be like the cheapest tickets are 100 quid, and they're like, but it's Cynthia Erivo playing every role in Dracula.
And I mean, we didn't talk
Okay.
about we're going to talk about our good friend Jake Gyllenhaal this week, um,
Yes.
and your good friend Allie Ashford.
I have no issue with Annie Ashford in this musical.
Okay, it's not one.
Let's get that out of the way.
Okay.
I'll talk more about that in a bit.
I knew you did. I knew you had no qualms of her as Dot in Sunday the Part of George, or Murray, depending on what act we're in. But like the whole Jake Gyllenhaal $900 tickets for him and Denzel in Othello, and then that got no Tony nominations. And I was actually reading a piece in Vulture talking to two anonymous Tony voters about how they kind of ganged up against Othello, and they're so glad it wasn't because there's like this quip of like, and every week we're getting emails saying this just broke this box office record and this is the highest grossing thing we just recouped. When they kind of go, well, yeah, of course you did because you're charging $900 for tickets.
Mm.
And we are kind of starting to see a bit of a pushback to that. And I don't know. I think it's very interesting. I was pondering that this week of where are we going in the era of celebrity casting. It's always existed, but it definitely feels like it's ramped up in a way. And on one hand, you have a Jamie Lloyd who seems to think about the celebrity casting and the stories he wants to tell. Again, I'm so sad for his Evita because I think there's such an interesting take in casting Rachel Zegler specifically as Evita.
Yeah.
And like Nicole Scherzinger in Sunset Boulevard, having her almost kind of play herself in moments where she's this washed up star and she's speaking in all with the vocal fry and the rest of it, where it's takes it out of its time period and so on and so forth, and does something really interesting with the material. Like, but are we just doing stuff because we can now?
Listen, I just want to say, as someone who just wrote an entire dissertation
Mm.
about how we can take and find relatable moments that we can then apply to the real world.
Yeah,
I think there is certainly an argument for that in all of these.
yeah,
That yes, like there is going to be a moment when you're watching Sunset Boulevard where
mm.
you're sudden for just a split second, even you're looking at that stage and you're like, oh, that's Nicole Scherzinger.
Ex Pussycat
I
Doll.
know, yeah, ex Pussycat Doll. Many would have called her washed up. What is it saying that she is playing Norma Desmond? You know, I
Yeah.
think she's incredible. She's an incredible actress and an incredible singer.
Mm-hmm.
She is doing amazing on that stage.
Oh yeah.
What is it saying that maybe 3 years ago, if you had told me I was going to go and spend like 300 quid to go and see Nicole Scherzinger, I would have said, are you fucking joking? Nicole Scherzinger? The
The,
ex-Pussycat
the
doll?
woman from the X Factor.
Yeah. But like, I think there's a point to be made there about how you relate the story of Sunset Boulevard to Nicole Scherzinger and other
Mm.
celebrities
And
like her.
we're gonna talk about that soon.
Yeah. The same with what you're saying about Evita and Rachel Zegler. There's
Yeah.
going to be a moment where you're looking on that stage, you're like, that's
Oh,
Rachel Zegler. How can I take her story and apply it to what is being said in Evita?
well, yeah, because I'm going to see Evita with my parents, and I'm thinking, like, how much Rachel Zegler lore do I need to tell my mum specifically of, like, and then this happened, and they got outraged, because a lot of Evita is, I mean, Evita was, Ava Perón was very concerned with her public perception, and originally, the script and how Prince Production started with a montage of the real Evita's life, and talking about that.
Yeah. And I think there's something to be said that Cynthia Erivo,
Yeah.
she will go up on that stage and there'll be a moment where people in the audience think, that's not Dracula, or I forget every single other character's name, including the main character of Dracula's name.
Is that not actually?
Jonathan,
Is
I think.
Is Dracula's not Dracula's name?
Dracula is Dracula's name.
Okay.
Dracula is not the main character of
Okay,
Dracula.
I've not read Dracula.
He's the titular character.
Titular character because he's in the title.
Yeah. But the main character, it's Dracula is an epistolary novel, which just means it's told through letters. It's like there's
you mentioned that.
Yeah, because there's Dracula Daily,
Yeah.
which is fun. I'll be on again soon. Maybe now.
It's like a real-time Titanic, R.I.P.
Yeah.
Love.
I miss real-time Titanic.
I miss real-time Titanic so bad, up and down the timeline. Now it's contributing to this. People just pretending like they were on the Titanic.
It was great. I was also, a part of it.
Also, guys, with the news that HBO Max has gone back to being called HBO Max, we can still get Elon Musk to change Twitter back to Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
I'm never calling it not Twitter. X? Who's that?
What the fuck is X? Anyways, yeah, I think that, it's not Dracula, or I believe his name is Jonathan on that stage, at Cynthia Erivo. What is it saying that, all of Cynthia Erivo's history, who she is as a person, everything she's been through? What is it saying that she is doing this role?
Yeah.
And I think that is very interesting, and that's just kind of art as a whole thing.
Yes.
Just the act of playing a different person, you're going to have a moment like that.
Yeah.
It just feels like her playing every single role is less integral to that moment than the fact that it's Cynthia Erivo.
Yeah. Yeah.
She could just play Dracula, or she could just play Jonathan, maybe.
We don't know.
And you would still have that moment. Her playing every single role.
Feels a bit gimmicky.
What is this guy's name? Because I can't keep calling him Jonathan, maybe.
It's
Dracula characters. Yeah, Jonathan Harker.
Okay, you were right. Well done.
And do you want to know how I vaguely knew that his name was Jonathan?
Why?
Andrew Keenan Bolger played this character in that comedy Dracula. In Dracula, A Comedy of Terror.
Yeah, get Cynthia Erivo.
Hey, Jonathan Harker.
Get him in that.
But yeah, I'm very excited for the Dracula. My mum actually forwarded me the email and said this could be interesting. So I might get her to buy me tickets if they're like 300 quid. Because I do love Cynthia Erivo and I do love Dracula and I do think it'll be really interesting. It just feels like a gimmick to sell 300 quid tickets.
Yeah, no, and yeah, I feel like we need to stop. I feel like I'm glad by the fact that we're not normalizing this.
Yeah.
As a theatre going community, which I feel like sometimes a bit overused, like theatre going community. But as a theatre going community, we are en masse kind of being like, I don't want to pay 300 quid for a ticket.
This is the biggest issue facing theatre goers today.
It is.
Ignore everything else. We need to unite against 300 quid tickets.
I fully agree. I saw Here We Are for a tenner in the second row, and we're gonna go see Ballet Shoes for a tenner.
Exactly.
God bless the National.
Love the National. Anyways,
moving on to something else. Tina Turner announces that it will be closing after 7 years in the West End. Full disclosure, never seen Tina Turner the musical. I can't lie, biographical musicals aren't really my thing. And I like a bit of Tina Turner.
I think we said this the last time we went to West End, which is about 2 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
This year we're going to West End Live. No, we're not.
No, we're not.
I work weekends, so no, we're not.
Yeah, first off, you work weekends, and second off, I'm actually in London that week, I think.
You could go to West End Live.
I'm not going to West End Live. Fuck, Martha might drag me there.
Have fun. Tell me what Operation Mincemeat performs.
I'll kill myself.
The
Hadestown might be performing if it's true again.
Hadestown might perform.
I'd have to go to
I could see Here We Are performing.
If Here We Are perform,
you're going.
I'm going. Martha, we gotta go.
Yeah. Anyways, the last time we went to West End Live 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Tina Turner performed.
And they are great performing at West End Live.
Yeah. And I said I think that's the only way I will ever really enjoy Tina, the Tina Turner musical.
Yeah.
Because I'm not the biggest fan of Tina Turner. I like her music. I think she
I
makes
mean,
great music.
we'd all be an
I
idiot.
don't need to sit through a 3-hour show of her music.
We would all be an idiot if we didn't think Proud Maverick was a banger of a tune.
Yeah. I think it'd be interesting, and if I got cheap enough tickets, I would probably go to it. But I have no desire to seek out tickets for it.
Also, it's like this
But
is a
seeing
live.
them perform on that stage was really fun. I was like, "Fuck, I love this song. This is a great Tina Turner song," and she's really performing it on stage. That was great.
That's amazing.
Anyways,
It's
Les
very
Mis is gonna perform Bring Him Home. So,
Les Mis are going to do Bringing Him Home for the 400th time at West End Live.
yeah.
We Yeah, it's also just like a lifespan of a show. I'm very intrigued to see what's going to go into the Aldridge before because there's a couple of shows circling London, um, as we speak. So
Yeah.
exciting times. Oh, there's something I forgot to write down.
Um, Legally Blonde to tour.
I've been saying for ages that I've had this. Yeah, that Legally Blonde is never far from our hearts as a theatre, as a nation of theatre goers. And it was only a matter of time before it came for, oh my God, you guys, ways back into our hearts. And the only thing I will say about this is, why you gotta launch a tour? Why I'm not where I'm when I'm not no longer living close to a regional theatre, Legally Blonde.
I hope it goes to the Apollo.
If it goes to the Apollo, I'll be there every single night.
The thing is it's not going to. It's going to go to like Wimbledon, but we can still get to Wimbledon.
For Legally Blonde the musical, I will go to Wimbledon.
Yeah.
I'll trek back out to the horrors, to the side of the well, actually no, not the horrors. But I would have really loved to have done a hard day at uni and then be like, I'm gonna go see Legally Blonde.
Yeah.
That sounds like I'd have a good time. So rude of them.
I would have liked to like finish work early and go to Legally Blonde.
Yeah, Operation Mincemeat World Tour announced outside of the UN. I just said that with a straight face. I mean, at least they're leaning into the absurdity, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, let's get out of the way. Rule Britannia.
Rule Britannia.
But
Britannia rules the world. Will it be cheaper to go see it at like Bath or like Farnham than on the West End?
Probably. I mean,
It's
World
cheaper
Tour.
to see it on Broadway.
Yeah, World Tour.
They're going to Australia. They're going to where is it? Australia? New Zealand, I want to say.
Okay.
Canada, I assume, and Mexico.
Okay.
Australia, I think they'll love it.
Generally, I'm sensing a theme.
English-speaking countries.
Yeah.
Except for Mexico.
Except for Mexico being the kind of outlier here.
Okay, so in 2026, the show will tour the United States, Canada, Mexico, and in 2027, they will visit China, Australia, and New Zealand.
I get it, and I think it will be successful in the like general sense. But I just can't see them getting the show that much.
I'm not sure someone in China or Alabama are going to be sat there going, this is the greatest thing since Rodgers and Hammerstein.
I just also think that there's not a strong enough message to make it universal. Like, and I hate to bring it back to this. The reason the Phantom of the Opera does pretty well internationally when it does its world tours and it's like international productions is because the message and the core themes of it are so basic and universal.
So like the Phantom is a mega musical. Like mega musicals are built to go around the world and be very universal.
Listen,
same with like the Gatsby.
If you're gonna go to China, Operation Mincemeat, and it's set that doesn't exist until the finale, cannot compete with a 360-degree revolving stage in Chongqing.
Oh my God,
let's just get
sick.
that out of the way.
Fucking hell, that's so sick. I forget about that every so often.
On the other hand, if Operation Mincemeat goes to China and performs on the 360-degree revolving stage,
I'd have
I'd
to
have
go.
to go.
I'd have to find a way.
We would have to be there.
Well, we
Because
were
I
meant to
do
go to
think the
China in sixth form,
360
but
degree
then COVID
I
stopped
know,
us.
COVID. The thing is that the 360-degree revolving stage could save Operation Mincemeat.
They had a revolve, I'd be a bit more interested in them as a show.
A revolve would really help them.
Hmm.
The whole stage revolving, I'd be there every night.
I'd be an influencer, guys. Well, the influencers stopped going as much.
Kind of sad.
Uh, I think it's because they priced them out. I'm gonna be so real here.
Yeah. The influencers have moved on to Benjamin Button.
Yeah. Speaking of Benjamin Button,
Speaking of Benjamin Button. Anyways, final thoughts on Mincemeat before that. I hope they succeed.
yeah.
You know,
Like I have no doubt that they're going to go to Australia and New Zealand and have and be very well received. Also, I feel like I've not been to either of those places, so I'm talking out my ass a bit here. But I feel like our sense of humor and our culturally quite comparable.
yeah, everything I know about Australians, I think they will very much get that kind of dry, almost rude sense of humor that Mincemeat and British people, not to brag, but British people also do quite well.
Yeah, Benjamin Button and Opening Night set to release live cast albums. They're all probably already out by the time this is happening. I am very excited to hear Benjamin Button. I know I was a bit lukewarm on that show. I think I would be able to collect my thoughts a bit more if I could like hear a live cast album. And I think recording
Yeah.
it live is amazing. I am always in favor of if you can do it live, especially since they're all playing instruments and it was recorded on the stage. I think that's really sick.
Yeah. I'm really excited for the opening night cast album.
Honestly, same.
But I still don't know what the fuck was going on in that show.
One did.
I hope you can hear booing.
Someone tweeted that. They were like, I hope you can hear people walking out.
Like, in the Hadestown one, how in between each song the transition is like clapping.
Oh, I fucking love Hadestown.
Just that, but it just boo.
Opening night, very intrigued. New Heather's casting. Who is it now? You
Big
looked up.
news.
What?
Yeah, big news.
Big news. You looked up the list.
I'm a bit preoccupied right now.
Well, if you could look up the list again, because you had it open a minute ago.
My God. What's on stage? Heather's New York. New York.
New York.
Yeah. Mackenzie Kurtz as Heather Chandler, Olivia Hardy as Heather Duke, and Elizabeth Tita as Heather McNamara.
Yeah. Yeah. That is probably a list of people who I really expected them to cast.
Yeah.
Again, I'm so intrigued to see just the societal reaction to Heather's having a major production again. I'm not invested in it beyond that because I am 20 years old and almost have a university. I basically have a university degree.
You've moved on.
I've moved on. Thank you, Jesus. And I am regressing in many ways. Don't check my laptop for an next normal pro shot.
I would never watch a pro shot.
I would never watch a pro shot that I got off of a Google Drive link. No,
I like how I said I would never watch a pro shot. Yes, I would.
I would watch a pro shot.
I would never watch a bootleg of a pro shot.
I would never watch a pro shot that I got off of a Google Drive link. That's not me. Don't check my computer. However, I've moved on. Anyway, moving on to other things. Andrew Lloyd Webber is back at it again, guys. Who's excited?
Me.
Yay! He is doing 4 remixes for Starlight Express for some reason, and we have to go Andy Renaissance. Give him a hand.
Go.
We've
got to do another 4-show week.
We have, yeah. Maybe for my 21st.
Yeah.
If you're not working then.
I can get it off. I could quit.
That's what I was about to say, aren't you quitting around then?
Yeah. Well, it depends how nice they are to me in the next couple of months. How
Oh,
much they pay me and such.
they don't know it yet, but that's how they're
They
like.
paid me
Huh.
for 3 hours of work yesterday. I did zero rides. I'm a rides operator, by the way.
Mm,
Not to myself, I'm a rides operator. Um, they paid me for 3 hours of work. I did zero rides
mm.
and had a 30-minute break.
Yeah,
I spent 3 hours sitting on the stairs trying to tan my legs. Didn't work. And they paid me for it.
yeah.
Let me go home. It was great.
Amazing. Amazing stuff. Um, Girl from the North Country casting has been announced. I'm intrigued about this. I've been needing to go back to the Old Vic since I had the spiritual experience at Groundhog Day.
Exactly.
And I'm into Bob Dylan now. So shocked has started performances.
This was crazy.
We've not seen it. I don't know.
Sorry, like,
I don't think we're gonna be able to see it because it's only open for like a month and a half.
well, maybe we can move our four-show week up a little bit. See, I've now got it in my head that I want to come home for 5 days, and now I can't come home when I plan. Well, technically, they haven't said anything yet, but I would need to request the time off, and I haven't because I was kind of assuming that I would just be able to do it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So it obviously started performances and then it finishes performances on the 14th of June. I know. When I said a month and a half, I meant a month and a half. Less than that.
Jesus Christ.
I know.
I could probably come back that first week of June,
Yeah, I'm around.
if that works for you.
I'm saying like I have any plans. I have parties to attend, but that's it. Nell's getting sassy.
I'm making fun of her.
It's my last hurrah before I have to go be an adult. I'm so man. Um, Gatsby cast for South Korea announced. Don't have many thoughts on it, TBH. Now, this is big for me. This is massive for me. Evita, 30 under 30. Now, there is a couple of days, and yes, it is in the same week that I'm going to go see Evita with my parents. However, one of my friends is going to be in London, and so we might have to go see Evita.
Oh, Stephen Sondheim wrote a letter in support of Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812.
He's just such a great guy. I miss him every day. Why did he have to die? Why my homeboy Sondheim have to die? If anyone should get to be immortal, I feel very passionately about this. If anyone should get to be immortal, it should be Sondheim.
Yeah, bit late.
We can revive him. We can revive him. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Maybe not. Spelling Bee looks like it might be coming back to New York. Good for them. I love Spelling Bee. I would go see that. I would take flight to go see that.
Well,
I'm
we
not
could do 2 shows.
protest one. Um, Isa Jackson to join Gatsby as Daisy. Fun fact: I saw her as Anna.
Fun.
Talented lady. Wanted, formerly known as Guns and Powder, to go to Broadway. It played Paper Mill and got very good buzz there, so this is no surprise. Jamie Lloyd wants to direct Hamlet with Timothy Chalamet.
I was talking with someone about this, and I don't remember who. I really thought it was Esme, and then she was like, I didn't talk about this with you.
You're like, we spoke about this last week, and I was like, no, this news came out 2 days ago.
I don't know who I was talking about this with. But someone just offhandedly mentioned Jamie Lloyd wants to do Hamlet with Timothy Chalamet, and then followed up by saying, absolutely not.
Was it on Twitter?
And I was like,
Twitter.
no, because I can picture like a face saying it. So maybe I saw a video of someone saying it,
Possibly.
but I don't know.
Interesting.
Someone was just like, it's ridiculous. It's not going to work. Which, as a big fan of Hamlet, I think it could work. Do I think Timothy Chalamet is right for the role of Hamlet? Yes, absolutely, actually, now that I've said it. Ask Timothy Chalamet as Hamlet immediately.
Would you make a trip out to New York for it?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
I feel like perhaps Hamlet isn't the show to do a very stripped back version of, which I get that's his niche. Um,
Yeah.
but I feel like the point of Hamlet more so
Mm.
is that God, I don't know how to explain this without sounding like I'm really not understanding what Hamlet is about. But it is just kind of about this whiny little bitch who has everything and is still annoyed.
Yeah.
Like he's this scholar. He's a prince and he's a scholar.
Mm.
And then his dad dies
Mm.
and he's pissed off that his uncle is now his father and king.
Mm.
And so he just goes around killing various people who kind of piss him off a bit.
Mm.
He like flirts with and probably has sex with Ophelia.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he's like, actually, maybe it isn't a great idea for me to have a girlfriend while I'm going around killing people that kind of vaguely displease me, and says his iconic, "Get thee to a nunnery,"
And then Ophelia goes mad.
and then makes Ophelia go mad, and then jumps into her grave when she kills herself. They fight with her brother in her grave, and then dies.
Actually, I'd pay a lot of money to see Timothy Chalamet do that. Yeah.
That's what you got it. Timothy Chalamet's Hamlet would be great.
As me and my friend call him Tim Tam Shyamalan. We don't know where that came from. I'd stop
Someone
myself.
I know, it's called says his name really weird. I don't even remember how. Oh, Chalamet.
Interesting. Me and my friend were walking somewhere once after the Oscar nominations came out and we were talking about it. She went, Tim Tam Shyamalan, and I was like, okay,
That's sticking.
that's sticking now. Wicked Part 2 promo. People have seen the trailer, but they're not leaking it. We used to be a country. Come on,
Leak
guys.
that King trailer.
Come on. I want to see Dorothy. Now. Give it to me. Now. 51st Dates musical to premiere at the Upper Palace after Lightning Thief closes. It will be starring Georgia Castle off of her run as Regina George in the West End. Yeah. I'm glad that the Upper Palace are going back to doing new works. They found their niche. They found what works for them. Good for them. Time to talk about Sunday Park, George. If I start crying, mind your business.
I'm still looking for something to do with Sondheim.
Sunday in the Park with George is a musical with music and lyrics by Stephen Sondheim and a book by James Lapine. Now let's do a bit of Sondheim history. We're going to do a tiny, tiny, weeny bit of Sondheim history. In 1980, Sondheim wrote, in 1981, sorry, Sondheim wrote and was Merrily We Roll Along, and it was directed by his old friend and collaborator Hal Prince. Mr. Hal Prince, he's another one who should be immortal. Feel very passionately about this. So we can go tell Andy to stop fucking with his Phantom.
Oh my god, guess who's in my fucking house?
I have a feeling I know.
Yep.
It's someone who loves Hot Wheels.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It would be one of the most infamous Broadway flops, like Hall of Fame. Even though Merrily is a pretty good musical. With Sondheim saying that the issue with Merrily, or feeling like one of the issues with Merrily, is the critics were looking for a way to bring down him and Hal. That the two were attacked by the poor reviews. We were mavericks who were not struggling. That is a crime. As a result, he contemplated quitting musical theatre to go write movies and do video games. Saying, I thought, I don't want to be in this profession anymore. It's just too hostile and mean-spirited. I thought I'd love to invent games, video games. And so, as a result, him and Hal stopped working together. End of an era, end of some really good shit. You know, Hal Prince has got to go direct Phantom. Sondheim's got to go become friends with James Lapine. he would go see 12 Dreams, an off-Broadway play by a little-known man called James Lapine. In 1982, Sondheim began a tentative collaboration with Lapine. In search of a subject, they began rifling through photographs and painting. One of them was George Seurat's A Sunday Afternoon on the Island of Le Grand Jatte. A Sunday Afternoon on the Island of Le Grand Jatte was painted between 1884 and 1886. It is the largest painting of George Seurat, depicting people from different classes strolling and relaxing on the park just off Paris on Le Grand Jatte, an island in the Seine River. With him saying about it, this is George Seurat. I wanted to make modern people and their essential trials move as they do and reflect them on a canvas organized by harmonies of color. So one of the big things that George Seurat would do was the dots.
Hmm.
And each one will be a dot, and as you move and you look at it, it looks different. One of the other paintings' big claim to fame is being in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I love Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It is an amazing movie. I'm guessing you've not seen it.
No, I have not.
Context, Nell's not seen any movies, so me being like, I'm guessing you've not seen it. It's not me being mean, it's just...
I've never seen a movie in my life, except for Cats.
Except for Cats, 2019, starring Taylor Swift and James Corden.
Oh, yeah.
And I had a friend who went to Chicago recently, and she was telling us all about it, and we were all sat around, and she was like, oh, I watched Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And then she's like, and then I saw the painting, and I realized that if I saw that painting in real life, I'd probably start crying. I can't explain it. But I would be having my own Ferris Bueller's Day Off moment for many reasons. I'd just be crying. I love Ferris Bueller's Day Off. After presenting Sondheim with a postcard of Seurat's Sunday Afternoon on the Island of Le Grand Jatte, Lapine remarked that the painting looked like a stage set, but was missing a main character. Who asked Sondheim, and Sondheim was like, who? The artist, Lapine said, tracing a paper over the Le Grand Jatte, and drew arrows. Each one was pointing to an anonymous figure on the riverbank. Mother, he wrote, mistress, butler, and an existential game of clue and whodunit. With the answer being George Seurat. Who was Seurat? Sondheim and Lapine were able to gather a few crumbs of the notoriously selective painter who worked at night and kept mum unless asked about his experiences with colour, and had apparently gone to great lengths of keeping his mistress, Madeline... How the hell do you say that last name?
Knobloch?
Knobloch? A secret.
Knobloch, I think.
Knobloch. Madeline Knobloch was 21 when they got together. They had a son together, out of wedlock. Scandal.
Whoa.
He would create a portrait with her and hide their affair from all who knew him. He would go on to create, in his later life, because he died quite young, R.I.P. Ledge, he would go on to create circuses and cabarets. You could say follies. You could say...
Sorry, I'm still on Stephen Sondheim's letters.
Uh-huh.
Sent one to Trey Parker in 2005.
That's amazing.
And it was just him being like, Dear Trey Parker, I would have written you sooner, but I've had trouble finding your address. I hope this reaches you because it's another fan letter. I saw Team America and voted for it as best movie of the year. A fat lot of good it did you. I gather from friends to whom I've burbled on about it that it was treated rottenly by the critics and that you are much discouraged. I can't blame you, but then again, this is the time of discouragement. In any event, congratulations to you and your partner. Would you ever be interested in writing a stage musical with an old traditionalist? Namely, me, yours truly, Stephen Sondheim.
Oh, Steve, I miss him so much.
That's very sweet.
I miss Stephen Sondheim, man. Shortly after showing, I'm not going to attempt the amount of time that I have to attempt to say French words on this podcast. I might have written it down wrong. Salon des Indépendants.
Where?
I think that says
Salon de Indépendants?
Yeah, that.
Do you know how much French I've had to speak in the past week? My place of work, we just have French students coming on every single day. And I have to talk with them with my primary school level French and be like, le, dans le box, s'il vous plaît. We're like, um, tu as le billet? Non? D'accord.
I would be
I'm
used.
like, I don't know how to explain how to get tickets to you.
No. Surratt developed infectious pneumonia and or meningitis and died. It's not known because his cause of death was recorded as something different. On the day after his death, Madeline was present herself at a town hall of the district to identify herself as the mother of their child because he was officially listed as the child. The child would contract his father's contagious illness and die soon after. Madeline was one of the few family members who did not succumb to the disease. Like I think his father also did. Very tragic. There are a few details about her life. All we know is that her second child died at or soon after birth. Madeline herself died of cirrhosis of the liver, aged 35. So, not much known about these two people. Who there's an entire musical written about them, even though Madeline's name has been changed.
Mm.
In the musical, she goes by Dot because Sondheim and Lapine wanted to make a bit of a joke with that. But what's important to note is the photo he made of the painting he made of her, which is it's a very good photo. Look it up. I think it's she's powdering herself. It's kind of what's played out in color and light. On the lack of information, these two people, so I would say when you have a character like that, you can kind of fill him out any way you want. Over the writing period, it would be described as tense, since Sondheim wanted to be making video games, with both thinking that the partnership would not work out, with Lapine saying that the first draft of the script would finish the first draft of the script before Sondheim would ever finish a song, with Sondheim saying that the material would make a great play instead. Like, man is burnt after the experience of what should we call it? Marilyn.
Mm.
He is pissed off at the critics. And you know what? Fair enough, Sondheim. Fair enough, that's your prerogative. I'm glad you channeled it into this. So the first draft of the first act was written with potential cues for songs, as well as a series of made-to-order monologues that Sondheim could read for lyric ideas. By the time the actors gathered for the first reading of the first act, Sondheim had only completed the opening chords of the score. I was really dubious, Lapine would say. I thought, why isn't he writing? What he would write would be a rhythmic verse of Surratt's technique. He wanted to write a shimmering Breton-esque score for the time and toyed with the idea of assigning every white on the piano key a colour on Surratt's palette, juxtaposing them with the way he did with the painting, using the black keys to modify them the way that Surratt used black and white. Bernadette Peters would sign on to playing Dot on the basis of one song and 30 pages of the first act. When rehearsals began for the off-Broadway workshop in summer of 1983, no music had been written for the second act, which is Sondheim's ideal way of writing, saying, I really don't want to write the score unless the show is cast and it's in rehearsal. I didn't want to make any mistakes. Silly as that sounds, it's true because then you know the quality of the people that you're writing for. One draft of the show around this time would have a lengthy detour to the 1950s with a child actor playing a pre-Chromaloon George. Bernadette Peters would say, this was the show that Steve and James were writing as we were going through it every day. We'd wait to see what song would appear. It was so exciting. And how exciting it was when Finishing the Hat came in. At this point, it was at the middle of a... Okay, so, interesting stipulation here that I noticed between different sources. Some sources said it was a workshop at Playwrights Horizons. Some said it was an off-Broadway run at Playwrights Horizons. Anyway, they're at Playwrights Horizons and you could get tickets if you knew a guy. And it was like open for 25 performances. So they're halfway through this Playwrights Horizons adventure, as it seems, with the story going, one afternoon, Sondheim told Mandy Patinkin that he'd written a new song for George. In search of an open piano, they left Playwrights Horizons and crossed the street to the basement of the West Bank Cafe. Sondheim sat down at the piano and began to play. He was very nervous when he started playing it and singing. He went from a dry shirt to sopping wet underarms right in the chest. But he was worried about something, and we were all in tears, according to Mandy Patinkin. Uh, that night, he performed finishing the hat using the using a sketch pad as a crib sheet. According to Janine Tesori, yes, that Janine Tesori of Shrek the Musical fame, um,
Icon.
who was an intern at Playwrights Horizons during the original workshop, she would say, it's one of the few songs that actually captures what it's like to have a blank page, then put something down in a rush of the rush and the burden of it, and what it costs to people. It was the first thing I did after graduating school. On my job was to get on the M49 bus and bring new songs by hand to the music director, Paul Giamatti. I would sit there with the manila envelope on my lap and I never looked. The 25 performance run at Playwrights Horizon would be messy, with Patinkin seriously considering leaving the show when it was in previews, saying, when I was younger, I had a bad habit of trying to fix my problems by running away. One thing I've learned through the years is to sit with the discomfort. Uh, but I had no idea how to do it then. I like theatre because you have to rehearse. You don't get to rehearse life, so I thought it was insane. And you, talking to Lapine, were to blame. You know, who else was there for me to blame? Lapine would say in response to this, yeah, I think you went running out the building, and I chased you down 42nd Street. I
Jesus Christ.
I miss Broadway's 80s shenanigans so much. Jesus Christ. Um, like the entire Playwrights Horizons run seems like a bit of a mess, and everyone involved will admit that. With walking out of the second act being very common, with the actress Mary uh, Darcy saying one night when we started Act Two with It's Hot Up Here, and the character of Yvonne sang the second line, It's hot and it's monotonous. Someone yelled from the audience, It sure is. People laughed, and it was horrible to hear that. Nevertheless, of the chaos, they would still transfer to Broadway. However, Bernadette Peters would have a stipulation about moving with the show to Broadway. According to Lapine, the reasoning was Bernadette said I feel Dot drops out after a couple of songs, after the first couple of scenes after Color and Light. Dot, she thought, was missing something chewy, expressive, like finishing the hat moment of her own. So Sondheim got to work. And the song that, and then it eventually became We Do Not Belong Together, which dramatized George and Dot's conflict and drove the plot forward. They would start performances at the Booth Theatre on the 2nd of April, 1984. In one of the last performances before opening night, they would add two songs, being Lessons 8 and Children at Art. They would finally open on the 2nd of May, 1984. So I find it mind-boggling that they almost got to opening night without adding Children at Art. It's crazy, bro.
Yeah. I think you find it with a lot of musicals though.
Yeah.
I'm trying to okay, I'm gonna go back to Hadestown with this because I think that's the one where you have the most like knowledge of how it was written because there is a whole book about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so funny reading, and it's like a song that you think is like the most important song in the show.
Yeah.
In my experience, it always ends up being those ones where you find out how it's written, and it's just someone being like, yeah, we just figured we needed like a song for this character, or we just needed to like fill the time to like bridge this gap because it didn't make sense to go from this song to this song. So we just threw this together in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, okay,
You
how?
yeah, you are like I think about Children at Art regularly. regularly.
Mm.
I find myself just thinking about children and art and it is a concept and what it means and I love Sondheim. I love Sondheim. Sunday in the Park with George is arguably one of my favorite sometimes. And he was just like, yeah, it wasn't a thought on our radar up until that point. But just love Sondheim.
It would just be like if you were reading about or like learning about how Les Mis was written. And they were just like, yeah, we just figured Eponine probably needed a song somewhere, so we just kind of threw it together on my own.
No, that's literally how it happened.
Yeah, like we were probably
They're like,
gonna
we
cut
needed an
it.
act opener, and Eponine probably should have a song.
Yeah, so we just kind of threw it together.
It's
It's like, okay.
like On My Own is a standard, On My Own is a classic, On My Own is a way of life for many people.
Yeah.
And it's just
And
kind
just
of
there are songs in Sunday in the Park with George where it's like that could never happen.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking, I'm really bad with the names of songs in Sunday in the Park with George. Let's get that out of the way.
Let's get this out of the way right now.
I don't know the names of any of the songs in Sunday in the Park with George.
Well, you know the name of Sunday. Sunday by the blue, bright triangular water.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I think a lot of the songs in Sunday in the Park with George,
Yeah.
you couldn't just throw together because they are like integral.
Mm.
It's just the like children in art.
Yeah.
I think one of I'm right in being like emotional songs.
Yeah. Children art within itself has kind of become a saying to a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's kind of become like this way of explaining like this really deep concept of like what do you sacrifice for your art and what is your legacy?
Legacy.
Legacy.
What is a legacy?
Why are the best pieces of musical theatre about legacy?
It's planning seeds.
We used to go see Hamilton again.
We've got to go see Hamilton.
Gotta go see Hamilton.
I listened to that legacy monologue the other day and I was like, this is so like 2010s optimism, but fuck it slaps. Legacy. Legacy. What is a legacy?
It's planning. No, I mean children in art of after we've gone, this is your lot, and she's pointing to the painting of that was done by his great grandfather and is dot is in the forefront, obviously. The art and the lyrics. Actually, I'll save that for our thoughts. That's just kind of loud. There's only one original Broadway review I could find for it.
Fun.
And it is The Outlier. Everyone else fucking hated this show.
How do I feel about all the good shows?
And the only person who understood it, Frank Rich. I feel warm to Frank Rich. I don't know. I just respect him. I respect him so much.
Yeah.
And he fucking loved Sunday in the Park, George. In his paintings of a century ago, George, huh?
Huh?
I thought you said something.
I coughed.
In his paintings a century ago, George Seurat deemed that the world look at art in a shocking new way. In Sunday in the Park with George, their new show about Seurat, songwriter, Sondheim, and playwright-director James Lapine demand that the audience radically change their whole way of looking at Broadway musical. Seurat, the author reminds us, never sold a painting. Is everyone's guess about whether or not the public is shocked or delighted at Sunday in the Park with George. What I do know is that Mr. Sondheim and Mr. Lapine have created an audacious, haunting, and in its own way intensely personal, in its own intensely personal way, touching work. Even when it falls, as it does on occasion, Sunday in the Park is setting the stage for more sustained theatrical innovations yet to come. There is, in fact, no dancing in Sunday. While there is a book, there's little story. Creating a work of pioneer modernist art, Mr. Lapine and Mr. Sondheim have made a contemplative modernist musical about that true art form. It is as much about itself, the creators, as it is the universe beyond. Surratt here is embodied commandingly by Mandy Patinkin, who might as well be a stand-in for Mr. Sondheim, who is brought in with the same fierce, methodical, intellectual precision to the musical and verbal composition as the artist brought his provincial realm. In one number, Sunday, Surratt's work is dismissed by contemporaries for having no passion, no life. Critique frequently leveled at Sondheim. Unlike Sondheim's last show, Merrily We Roll Along, this one usually is not a whiny complaint about how hard it is to be misunderstood, underappreciated genius. Instead of showbiz figures' self-martyrdom, we get an artist's self-revelation. As often is the case with Sondheim musicals, we don't care about the characters, and here or more than ever, it's clear that we're not meant to care. To Surratt, these people are just models or a meditative composition that's not intended to tell any story. In his painting, the figures are silent, expressionless. Even Dot is fodder from dots. Lapine and Mr. Sondheim tease us with these characters' various private lives, with their rifle with betrayals, only to sever those stories abruptly from the moment Surratt's painting has found its final shape. It's the author's way of saying that too, regardless of their characters, only as forms that can be manipulated to a theatrical comparison, those whose content is visual and musical than dramatic. The fantastic set by Tony Stargines?
What?
Uh,
Right? Strike.
Right, that sounds better than whatever the hell I was saying. An animated toy box complete with pop-ups. Mr. Patinkin's George gradually assembles bits and pieces of the painting, attempting and brandishing life-size portions before our eyes. In the process, Lapine and the congeniality puzzle-minded Mr. Sondheim prove their own logic speculations about who the other people in Surratt's painting might be. Most prominent among them are the painter's mistress, named Dot, more or less radiantly performed by Bernadette Peters. Others are such diverse types as boorish American tourist, a burly boatman, a class-conscious German servant, yet these people are more than fleeting cameos, as often is the case in Sondheim musicals. We don't care about the characters here more than ever. I copied that twice. As a result, when Surratt finishes Le Grand Jet at the end of Act 1, we're moved not because the plot has been resolved, but because it is a harmonic work of art has been born and achieved on stage, complete with pointous lighting by Richard Nelson and costumes by Patricia Zeppold and Anne Hole-Ward. The fixing of the picture is an electrifying coup d'etat theatre. Coup d'etat theatre. Funnily enough, the effect is accompanied by the first Sondheim song that evening that allows the cast to sing in glorious harmony. The song's lyrics, meanwhile, remind us that the magical order, both in this painting and the musical, are transcended, and the ugliest doings of the small suburban park on an ordinary Sunday. Act 2 is thoroughly muddled and equally as daring. The show jumps an entire century forward to focus on a present-day American artist, also named George, but again, played by Mr. Patinkin. The factful time travel conceits that link George to Surratt are charming. Rather than less successful are the author's revision to compensate conventional stories about the modern. George overcomes his crisis of confidence to reintegrate himself as a man and an artist when George finally learns how to connect with other people and rekindles his aesthetic vision. This breakthrough is ordinated in two pretty songs, Children Are and Move On, which seem to be inorganic as the equivalent inspirational number Being Alive that deems born-again protagonists in Mr. Sondheim's company. Sunday argues that the aesthetical position is celebrated cerebrally ordered classism, modern artists, easily as poignant as the sentimental position of romantic paintings or conventional musicals. Both at the beginning and end, the hero is embracing not a woman, but an empty white canvas. that he really loves and looks for its many possibilities. Look closely at the canvas or at Sunday in the Park itself, and you'll get lost in a sea of floating dots. Stand back, and you'll see that the evening's two theatre artists, Mr. Sondheim and Mr. Lapine, have woven all of those imaginative possibilities into a finished picture and a searing and a starring new glow. Synopsis time.
Yay. Um, this Pulitzer Prize winning musical follows painter George Seurat in the month leading up to the completion of his most famous painting, Sunday afternoon on the island of Le Grand Jatte. Consumed by his need to finish the hat, Seurat alienates the French bourgeoisie, spurns his fellow artist, and neglects his love adult, not realizing his actions will reverberate over the next 100 years. Yeah?
Yeah. Where do we want to start with Sunday in the Park, George? I am truly fascinated by this piece. I cannot. I mean, I can try and explain why, and I'm gonna attempt to, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It moves me in a way few things do. It moves
Yeah.
me in the same way that like ragtime moves me, where like I'll just be sat listening to it and just start crying out of nowhere. Um, like I really do love this, and I can't say I understand what happens in Act Two. It's like a lot of Sondheims, where in Act Two you kind of lose me a little bit. No,
I get
to it.
that like it's in the future and it's about how, we're all connected.
It's about how we're all connected and legacy and what do we leave
Legacy, what is
behind?
a legacy?
What is a legacy?
Uh,
Lynn I have a Lynn crying and reading and talking about Sunday about George is like one of the saddest things I've ever seen in my life.
yeah, for multiple reasons.
It's so sad. He's like on the verge of tears. He's in Times Square and he's holding the book and it's like his Bible to him and you can feel his love of Sondheim. So amazing.
Um, but yeah, I get that Act Two is a little bit more out there than Act One.
Abstract, I would say.
Yeah. I think it's ultimately I feel like this is going to be a similar thing to like when we did Tick Tick Boom.
Yeah.
She's gone. Um, because when I don't know how much came through in the episode, but when we did Tick Tick Boom, we both started. Yeah. But we started our thoughts section with being like, I don't know how to talk about Tick Tick Boom. Like it's an important musical to me, but I don't really know what to say. And then by the end of it, we were like, Tick Tick Boom is the most important musical ever written.
Really, like it literally like Tick Tick Boom literally interpolates Sunday.
Yeah. I think Sunday is very much where Tick Tick Boom was about life. This is gonna sound so pretentious. I apologize in advance.
We're talking Sondheim. Like I can't not sound like a pretentious fucking asshole right now.
I think Tick Tick Boom is really focused on like this idea of like you as a person. What are you doing?
Yes.
It's about like making things and doing things, but it's ultimately about like personhood and like this idea of running out of time.
Yeah.
All of that is focused on that. Whereas I think on the flip side, Sunday is focused on the other half, which is art. Like, what are you making?
What? Yeah. And in like I finding out the context that Sondheim was like, I might be done with musicals. It is no surprise to me that he wrote Sunday in the Park with George, which is a deeply focused meditation on if I were to go, what do I leave behind?
Yeah.
Is all of those days sat around at a piano worth it? And what effect has that had on the people around me? And I think that is the central conflict that plays out between him and Dot. I mean, Dot's Dot's also turning that over in her head because she goes, I think it's Color and Light, or no, it's Sunday in the Park with George, it's the title song. She goes, well, if you want love and respect and not to say connection, modeling's no profession, but if you want instead when you're dead, some more permanent and um oh, the fact that I've been able to do that much off the top of my head is pretty impressive in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, well, if you want instead when you're dead. Sunday. Hi Jake Gyllenhaal. Um, yeah, well, if you want respect, well, if you want bread and respect and attention, not to say connection, modeling's no profession. If you want instead, when you're dead, some more public and more permanent expression of affection, you want a painter, poet, sculptor, preferably marble, granite, bronze, durable. All it's got to be good, and George, you're good. So it's setting up always that conflict of Dot wants to be remembered.
Mm.
She wants people to look at her and know her for centuries to come. And her wish is granted by hanging out with George and sacrificing what she needs and sacrificing a lot of her life for it, for this idea of being remembered and being permanent in history, which is such a hard thing to do. I sound like such a fucking asshole right now, but this is my time. Um, and for him just to, for Sondheim just to like be able to sum up that very complex notion so quickly is remarkable. Um, yeah, and then with her whole conflict of actually people like Louis because she gets pregnant and then she leaves George for Louis. And she goes, actually, Louis is not obsessed with his art. Louis's got a life. And she says to him, uh, I have you, George, and George, you have your work. Something like that, not exactly. And she starts to talk to him about that, and she's in a way, Dot does kind of give her life over to her work or what she
Mm.
perceives as art for a period of time. And then she decides, no, I'm out. I've got to go live a life and I've got to go have children. And I guess that's why children and art comes in, where she's like, I gave up art to have children, and that is my legacy.
What is a legacy? Uh, I'm like, every time you say legacy, I'm gonna say that. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I think, oh my God, it is unfortunate. I'm gonna have to say it.
But
It is a lot about legacy.
yeah,
What is a legacy?
that's amazing.
Um, I think like that's where Act Two comes in
Hmm.
because it is really weird and it does that. It's for me, it seems kind of like it can't quite make up its mind
Hmm.
because on the one hand, it's doing very much like this art is still really important. Like, look, this art is how I connect with other people. It's how I connect with my family.
Hmm.
Because I am an artist, like my great grandfather George was,
Hmm.
and it's through this art that I like. I'm like living, like making
Hmm.
a life, like how important it is to do all this. But in that same vein, it's the second George Jr., shall we call him?
Yeah.
Can I just say, by the way, George in 1984.
You're
So
too,
George Orwell.
you're too George Orwell pilled.
I can't escape him. Everywhere I look, George Orwell.
It's annoying when that happens, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. At least mine's funnier. It doesn't affect me.
It's like, at least it's not like you're just trying to zone out and listen to some Lana Del Rey.
No, no, no. Um, yeah, and actually, when George Orwell steps away from his life. Um, because it ends with him being like, I turned down my next commission,
Mm.
and I'm gonna like, and it's that ending bit of like this blank canvas.
Wait.
It's just it can't quite make up its mind of whether it's saying you should look to like make art in everything, or
Mm.
whether it's like the art, spend time with other people.
And I mean, that's why I was
Kind
like,
of just does. It's like I'm good. Anyways, we're back on stage for our bows. Get out of the theatre.
go home.
£20 t-shirts. And I think, in part, I think that is a good thing because it really does make you think. Like I'm sitting here, I'm like, do I want to be like George Seurat,
Yeah.
where I like have given up everything in my life
Hmm.
to make art,
Hmm.
and then I will die at 31, and no one will really know anything about me, and all I've left behind are these beautiful paintings that
Hmm.
people will look at and identify with, and like resonate with,
Yeah.
but they may never like. I think if I had the Sunday in the Park with George picture in front of me,
Yeah.
I'd be like, that's the Sunday in the Park with George picture.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be like, painted by, of course, George Seurat.
Well, sure.
I wouldn't know the name off the top
Mm.
of my head.
Mm.
But I'd be able to tell you, this is the picture, this is kind of what it's about.
I would because
Whether that is, yeah, I know, but you're a nerd.
well, no, because
Um,
my uncle famously used to take me and my older sister to, because he almost got a PhD in art history, to the National Gallery, and they have a George Seurat there, and he would monologue at us for hours whilst me and my sister were stood there bored out of our minds.
my God, you're just destined to be a nerd.
I know!
Everyone set you up for it.
I know! And I always like, you like me, it's because I'm like, Mark, whose issue is that?
Oh, this isn't my fault.
Yours, for being speechy at the National Galleries.
Um, but yeah, like this idea of his legacy being the art.
Mm.
And it's like, I think that is really important. That's obviously something I would want to do.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, seeing how that is then, how that actually plays out in the future.
Hmm.
Of yes, this art is interesting. And in fact, a member of his family that he is directly related to, George Orwell. I am going to call him George Orwell.
That's entering the lexicon of gobbledygook.
George Jr. from Sunday in the Park with George
Is
in
George Orwell.
1984 is George Orwell.
George Orwell, yeah.
Of course.
The episode name's
Um,
going to be a pun on that.
this is just like 1984.
George Seurat, no, not Orwell.
Um, but yeah, like one of his direct descendants,
Mm.
like a direct line down from him,
Yeah,
has seen George Seurat's art
yeah,
and is inspired by it, not because of George Seurat, but
no,
because of the art.
yes,
And I don't know quite how to put into words the kind of like emotion that makes you feel
yeah,
of like, oh fuck, he gave up everything for a piece of art.
yeah,
But then it's again that like this final message of like a blank canvas. Whoa. Because
yeah.
then what does that mean?
Hmm.
Like, is it then to say, actually, get painting, bro?
Bro, get your little, get like your ancestor did, get your little paintbrush out and start doing the dots.
Yeah, start sketching. You have a legacy. What is a legacy? The episode's gonna be called "What is a Legacy?"
What is
Let's
a
get that
legacy?
out of
Let's
the
get,
way.
yeah.
Sunday in the Park with George.
What
is
is a legacy? Well, I'm about to talk about legacy actually in a minute.
We're about to talk about legacy. And I think it's one of those things where you have these two competing, not narratives, but questions.
Yeah, and I like it when a piece of art doesn't really give you answers.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, here's some questions for you to mull over in your brain.
It's like, isn't that fucked up? Anyways.
What are we gonna do about that? Well, I'm not. I'm here to ask questions.
Anyways, we only have the
Question for the
space book
culture.
for 2.5 hours, so
We've all gonna go home. Question for the culture.
get out. Yeah. But like, I think It is that the fact that it's unresolved,
Yeah.
and it's just kind of, it is just kind of, what would you do?
We all make the choice, consciously or not.
Yeah.
What is our when we're dead, what is going to be left of what we
What is our legacy?
what is our legacy? We all make the choice, and for most people, it's children, not art. And most people choose children because art is hard,
Yeah.
and it's the 80s, and there's no other way to leave your mark on the world.
It's 1984. The Ministry of Truth has a grip on society. Big Brother is watching.
No, not the TV show. That is the way to make your legacy though, by going on Big Brother. Shout out Jojo Siwa. But one thing that I keep coming back to is in the wake of Sondheim's death. I'm like, why is it he wrote so much about death, and he wrote so much about, to use the word, legacy throughout his career.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but what is a legacy? This is a bad bit.
This is
You're going to come down
bit.
to visit, and all we're going to say is, what is a legacy?
Me and Nell are brainstorming our gobbledygook language.
Yes. A while ago now.
We're sending the part with George. This is sometimes self-insert. You know, Aeneas Mitchell has Hadestown. Andy famously has Phantom of the Opera. Sondheim has Sending the part with George.
And Tick Tick Boom to some extent.
Tick Tick Boom is Jonathan Larson, literally.
My apologies. Why did I think that was the same person for like a full minute? It's just in my head for some reason. I forgot Jonathan Larson existed. I don't know who I thought wrote like anything else by Jonathan Larson. Obviously, Sondheim.
Obvious. That's a new one. Who wrote Rents?
Who wrote Rents? Sondheim. I just forgot Jonathan Larson exists. Jonathan Larson had Tick Tick Boom.
Tick Tick Boom. No. And I mean, you can kind of tell his anger at the critics because he's constantly posts like in both centuries, in both acts, he's kind of poking fun of art critics and the keepers of art and being like, "Fuck you guys."
Yeah.
He says it's your right to decide what's good or not.
I also think like there's this underlying feeling of, I think this is why I thought it was the same person for a full minute.
Yeah.
Of like fear and regret, and specifically the fear of regret. Like this idea that Sondheim is almost scared that like with every bad review he gets,
yeah,
he's like, fuck, have I chosen art over every other person in my life, and it's actually not worth it.
Yeah.
Which I think, like, looking back at it with like hindsight of now that he's dead, I think isn't true, because the thing I always see whenever people are talking about Stephen Sondheim, comparatively to how much they're talking about what a great artist he was, which they do talk about a lot because he was a great artist, but it's always like first and foremost, they're always like, he was such a nice person. Like, he was the nicest guy I knew.
He had such care for musical theatre and musical theatre people.
Yeah. And even, like, I was looking through that Sondheim letters.
He wrote letters.
He wrote letters.
Like, he was
in 19th century Russia.
Yeah.
We do write letters.
We do write letters.
We put down in writing what is happening in our brains.
I'm telling my life.
I was looking at that to make a joke at Esme's expense, of course.
Always.
And the thing you actually say is that he's, because half of the letters are just couple sentences, but they're to like fans.
Yeah.
And it's just him being like, thanks so much for your kind words. I'm really glad you enjoyed the show. You seem really nice. Lots of love, Stephen Sondheim.
Well. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, there was one which just started like, oh, for an 11-year-old, your letter was so shockingly like well written and lovely to read. I hope you never stop writing.
You can tell
that's so sweet.
You can tell he was just like in it for the love of the game.
Yeah.
And I think something about George, it keeps coming back when we talk about how to memorialize such a
Yeah.
great man and such a prolific man. I mean, he wrote, I mean, how old is West Side Story now?
Oh
Like,
God. Do you want to look
it
it up?
it came out in the early 50s.
West
His most
Side.
recent musical premiered technically posthumously. I can never say the word rightly. But later on in his life, after he died, 2 years ago now. And
57.
no, yeah, 1957. Yeah, that feels right. Yeah. So a long time.
I just looked it up.
No, 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 I know.
68 years ago.
Yeah, so he was around for ages and he wrote so much. And why is this the piece? And I was googling clips of Sunday in the Park George because they do have a pro shot on YouTube. PBS, shout out PBS, love PBS. They've given me so much great musicals to watch, and I watched the clip of them singing Sunday, and Lin-Manuel Miranda, who also wrote Sondheim a lot. They had a correspondence, and that meant a lot to Lin-Manuel Miranda when he was just starting to write In the Heights.
Mm.
And he wrote, and Lynn read out this passage, and I wrote it down. I transcribed it from the video, and I want to read it now because it's very I love it. This is from his book. Look, I Made a Hat, which I really need to read, but it's like 30 quid. So waiting to buy that one. And he goes, talking about Sunday, this is the only lyric I've ever written that consists of one long, incomplete sentence. I wanted it to feel like what you would read at a description of a museum. I hope that the tone would echo the permanence of the painting, which is not only a miracle of composition, the innovative technique, but a surrealist take, which is something James pointed out to me. Surratt was as much a cartoonist as he was a painter. Once writing each show, I cry. At a notion, at a word, an orchestration, at a melodic idea. He then goes on to name the points where he cried at the show. That word was forever in Sunday. I was suddenly moved by the idea, by the contemplation that these people would not have known what they were being memorialized in such a major way in a great painting. I still cry when I think about it. And isn't that the concept of creating art?
Yeah.
And isn't that the way it works? And another lyric that has really moved me, and shout out to Jane Krakowski because she mentioned this when she was talking about Here We Are. In the end of Sondheim and Sunday in the Park, George, Dot says to George, "All well, maybe. Don't know. We're in dreamland by that point. Give us more to see." And I don't know, that lyric always really moves me. I just love it so much.
It's a great show.
It
It
is.
just kind of every lyric. This is going to sound so stupid, so I apologize.
It's sometime hour we can get pretentious.
It's not pretentious. It's actually the opposite. I'm going to sound.
I'm about to talk about one of my other strongest memories with Sunday in the Park with George, which is very stupid.
I'm going to sound like a podcast bro, where
No.
it's just you've given me a mic and I'm like having thoughts for the first time.
Okay, yeah. That is often what I feel like
But
on here.
I can't believe I'm going to say this. In Sunday in the Park with George,
Yeah.
it's just like every lyric
Yeah.
has a meaning.
Yeah.
Like, you get what I mean, right?
I get what you mean. Like, it is one of those things where you can just kind
Lyric
of like.
just has a meaning, it feels
Lyrics
like.
have
Like,
meaning.
it's like he's trying to say something.
It's like he's trying to do something. Um, something else I was gonna say. Oh yeah, my other memory attached to Sunday in the Park with George is, do you remember when when that like the part of the title song went kind of viral on TikTok for some reason?
What? And we sang it on the way to the Arrows tour.
Yes.
Yes, I remember. There are worse things than staring at the water on a Sunday.
We're posing for a picture being painted by a lover in the middle of a river on an island in a river on a Sunday. I don't even know why that was stuck in my head as I was going to the fucking Arrows tour.
I think you just started singing it, then I just joined in.
I feel like we were bored.
Yeah. Can I just say, by the way, can you see how unevenly I've cut my fringe? This is karma because I cut my sister's fringe a few weeks ago and I did it like way too short and it's an angle by accident.
Was not as bad as
And
that
now
fringe my sisters once gave me.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell. Okay, it's fine. It's fine.
You're good.
No one even cares.
No even science. Why is Joe Locke reposting next to normal edits on
Why
TikTok?
not?
Toby's
Why
not.
shouldn't he?
Toby's not supposed to find out by next to normal. You know that thing where it's like, if you could have dream dinner guests, dead or alive, who would you include? Sondheim's on my list.
Yeah.
So is Andy, but he's more there for the shits and gigs.
Oh, absolutely. And they're being sat next to each other.
Yeah, I had him sat
No,
next.
they're actually wrong. They're not.
I had Sondheim sat next to someone else, but yeah.
They're being sat one apart, and in between them is Patti LuPone. It's going
Yes.
Andy, Patti, Stephen Sondheim.
Yeah, Patty unfortunately wasn't on mine originally, but I feel like she needs to be there.
Oh, yeah.
Any last thoughts on Sunday in the Park with George?
Love it.
Yeah. I really love it. I really do. Anyway, moving on.
Love it.
Let's talk about the Tony Awards. At the Tonys, they would be nominated for Best Actor in a Musical for Mandy Patinkin, Best Actress in a Musical for Bernadette Peters, Best Featured Actress for Dana Levy, Best Book of a Musical, Best Costume Design, Best Director of a Musical, Best Lighting Design, Best Musical, Best Scenic Design, and Best Scenic Design, sorry. They would only win 2. Best Lighting Design and Best Scenic Design, losing out on the rest to La Cage aux Folles. La Cage aux Folles? La Cage aux Folles. We were talking about that earlier.
Oh, yeah.
And it would then go on to win the Pulitzer Prize for Drama in 1985, making it one of only 3 musicals to win the Pulitzer and not win the Tony for Best Musicals. So the 3 that haven't are Of Thee I Sing, the Tonys didn't exist then. Sunday in the Park with George lost to La Cage aux Folles, as I just said, and Next to Normal, which lost to Billy Elliot, which is one of the reasons why Operation Mincemeat will not win Best Musical. Speaking of Next to Normal, it would be recorded on Broadway with the original Broadway cast and be distributed by PBS. They would then have their premiere at the National Theatre Littleton, where Here We Are is now playing, in 1990, going on to be Into the Woods for Best Musical at the Olivier Awards. They would have a West End revival, they'd have a Broadway revival. They were pretty much revamps of the original. In 2017, under the direction of Janine Tesori at New York City Center, she began working with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yay!
Gosh, Jake Gyllenhaal. I actually really like his work in Sunday in the Park with George. I'm not even being a sarcastic Swiftie here. I'm being deadly fucking serious. I really enjoy his work in Sunday in the Park with George. When they first worked together at Encore's off-center production in Little Shop of Horrors, Tesori coaxed Gyllenhaal to star in his first musical, delivering a potted plant to his dressing room during the run of Constellations, on Broadway. The plant was sewn with bloody Barbie doll parts and a note that read, just do it. I thought he would say no, Tesori said, but it turns out he really loves to sing. During their first Little Shop session, Tesori was struck by the fact that Gyllenhaal's attention to detail and his desire to work endlessly matched his. We would sit with the score and go over it for 3 hours. As Dot says to George, he could look forever. And one day, over a kale salad, going over the music for Mishnik and Son, Tesori mentioned Sunday in the park with George, and I said, that could be a great role for you someday. Then it came together in his schedule, and we could do it at City Centre. It would also star Nell's best friend, Annalie Ashford.
Listen, I have no issue with Annalie Ashford in this production of Sunday in the Park with George.
I know why your issue is, and it's not with this.
My issue with Annalie Ashford is that she can't do accents, but she keeps agreeing to do roles that require her to do an accent.
More specifically, British accents. I don't know about her American accents.
American accents, I'm sure she's fine in. Like, but Pinky Boots, for one. And what else has she done that really pissed me off? Oh, Sweeney Todd.
Really?
That pissed me off.
Mm.
Is there another one I'm thinking of? Those are kind of the two that she does.
Those are the two, but they're pretty high profile. Like, she's nominated for Tonys for the two of them.
Yeah. And she just can't do the accents. And one of them would be fine.
Mm.
But is at a certain point you have to like hire a dialect coach.
Yeah.
And like try and learn.
Mm.
And it just pisses me off. And I also just don't like Kinky Boots, so
That's your right. We were talking about how you don't like Kinky Boots earlier.
I hate Kinky Boots.
They would take themselves out of this production. It would play at the Hudson Theatre, I'm 99% sure, and it was revamped for this occasion. And they would take themselves out of Tony consideration for this, claiming that, with the producers saying, with an award season so full of tremendous soon-to-be long-running musicals and revivals, they weren't all long-running. Come home, my pookies. Groundhog Day and Natasha Pierre, the Come from 1812, and revivals. The producers feel like its extremely limited special run of Sunday stands most appropriately outside of any awards competition. The producers, nevertheless, are proud to be part of such a landmark Broadway season. Could you imagine the chaos if Sunday was eligible?
Oh my god. It would have been insane.
It would have been fucking crazy. They were meant to come to London, but didn't because of the pandemic, and I don't like talking about it.
You're distraught.
I am. I think regularly one of the biggest things about the pandemic wasn't the fact that it kind of derailed my life. No. It was the fact that I never got to see Sunday Night George with Annalie Ashford and Jake Gyllenhaal. Although there are constantly rumors of a new production. And it will be coming to London first. Apparently that's what I hear. And if that happens, I will be there first in line. I will spend more than £20 to £30 on a ticket to Sunday in the Park with George.
Absolutely. Any amount of money for you to go see Sunday in the Park.
Yeah. So yeah, that's Sunday in the Park with George. Any last thoughts?
No.
No.
I love it. I think it's a great show.
It is a great show. It's great. You can tell I really enjoy it. And next week, now you explain what we're doing next week.
We're doing Dear Evan Hansen again.
Yeah.
I brought this up as a joke when we first got on call because I was like, it's end of May or early June.
And you've been in Dear Evan Hansen.
The thing is I just think I can talk a lot about it with like minimal effort.
Yeah.
I have a lot of thoughts on it. Mm-hmm. None of them good.
Yeah. No.
I think we're basically just going to use it to be a segue into somehow simultaneously Pride Month and Tony Month.
Yeah.
Which will be interesting.
Yeah. News. They've just announced the Mags casting for Hunger Games.
Hold on. You can't tell me I have to look. I have to look.
No. I was fully expecting that to be the reaction.
Is it good?
I don't recognise her, but Lily Taylor.
I feel like I recognise that name.
Mm.
Wow, that was loud as hell. What do I know her from?
Oh, she's in The Maze Runner?
That might be where I know her from.
Yeah. in the park with George.
She was in The Conjuring.
Nice.
Filmography. Esme.
What?
She was Rose in the dogfight film. Fuck off.
This is amazing.
That's ridiculous.
This is
Um,
amazing for us.
that's incredible.
Anyway, next week we're doing Gavin Hansen. Ugh.
I'm so excited. She played a character called Nell in The Haunting. Just to
Good.
brag.
Um, yeah, follow us on social media. Follow us on TikTok. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. Bye
All of that kind of stuff.
bye.